Witchy Review, my darling fizzies. It is I, your cherry godmother here, to talk to you about magic of all kinds. What's a cherry godmother, you ask? Well, I'm kind of like a fairy godmother. Instead of just granting you wishes, though, I teach you how to grant your own wishes using magic. No, not that kind of magic. Not that kind either.
We are the weirdos, mister.
There we go, that kind of magic. Exactly that.
The Witchy Review is where I take a critical eye to fictional magic in all forms of media, to compare, contrast, and get more in-depth as it relates to real-life witchcraft, magic, and occult practices in history. Tonight, we'll be taking a deeper look at 1993's Hocus Pocus. It's the movie of the Sanderson sisters, virginity, a magic book from hell, and of course, movie magic.
Personally, I'm still working on movie magic of my own. Ooh! Hocus Pocus is directed by Kenny Ortega, known for such camp classics like Newsies, High School Musical, and
Disney Descendants.
Oh yes, we'll definitely be covering that movie in the future. Personally, I love this movie. I grew up on this movie, and give me a movie with a witch in it, and you know I'm gonna watch it. I mean, hello, look at this series. Let's take a look at the plot before we dive into the magic, shall we?
We start at Thackeray's house, which was shot at the Living History Museum, Salem Pioneer Village. The witches make a brew, suck the life out of Thackeray's sister, turn him into a cat, and then are found by the townspeople and hung for witchcraft. And, you know, the child murder thing.
Wait, the people of Salem killed the Sandersons, who they now have definitive proof of practicing magic? They must have had a whole lot of egg on their faces after they killed all those innocent muggles before the sisters.
Max, like any holiday Scrooge, cries bah humbug on this Halloween tale. And he just isn't in the holiday spirit. After he cowabunga dudes it out of school, he heads home and finds out that he has to take his baby sister trick-or-treating. And his sister is played by Thora Birch and...
Oh my gosh, is she a baby god? This is 1993. Nightmare Before Christmas just came out that October. She got to grow up watching it. I bet she got all Hot Topic in her teenage years. Close enough.
They trick-or-treat at Allison's house, where her parents are hosting a party. Our heroic trio ditch that party and make their way to the Sanderson sisters' house to get extra spooky for Halloween. When there, Max, being the Evu that he is,
It means extra virgin olive oil.
lights the virgin candle of virginness. That's weird. Smells like Axe body spray. And you just know some evil shit's gonna happen when Disney Neon Green shows up. And the witches are back. From the hills, where their souls were residing this entire time.
Yeah, that's what it says in the script. Their souls were residing in the hills this entire time. Talk about the hills of eyes, am I right? Yeah, too obvious. I heard it when I said it.
Binks the cat shows up just in time to berate Max. The kids run off with the Sandersons' book and travel to a graveyard where we see Doug Jones in the role of sexy zombie.
So sexy, in fact, that Doug Jones has fan letters from fans who revealed that their first crush was Billy the Zombie. I think I know who those fans were. Girl, I get it. Personally, though, I like the modern monster. Call me.
The Sanderson sisters adjust to 1993 and get into more hijinks and antics. Dance with the guy they think is literally Satan. While our heroic trio run off to find the Dennison parents at the town dance party. Max genuinely tries to warn the town of the Sanderson sisters' return, but it leads to where all warnings should lead in a perfect world, a big, fabulous stage show! The witches use their special power of Bette Midler to enchant the crowd to dance all night until they die. The kids lure the witches to a school where they burn them alive, witch trial style, but since the magic of the black flame candle keeps them alive, their Disney neon green fog sucks back into the school where they come out alive. Toasty, but alive. They return home, and Winnie calls out to her book. Then the eye on the book opens up, and it's kind of implied that the book subtly influenced them. Or maybe super influenced them as they didn't notice the big forking stalk of light in their faces. That didn't set off any forking alarms that you two, that maybe something was up? The light draws the sisters to the Denizens, where they kidnap Danny to turn her into soul soup. Sarah uses her singing magic to call out to the children of Salem. Max and Allison rescue Danny, and the final showdown at the graveyard begins. Binks does what cats do and knocks a glass over. In this case, it's the vial of the last bit of youth potion from Winnie's hands. Max sacrifices himself and gulps down the potion to save his sister. Luckily for him, it's too late, and the witches explode into glittery puffs of smoke. Sounds like the finale to a Lady Gaga concert. Billy climbs back into his grave like, I guess I'm gonna go back and die now, and Binks dies on Emily's grave with a flair for the symbolic.
Ooh, I wonder if my movie magic will work with cameos. Hold on just a second. I wish I might have an English reviewer shout symbolism tonight.
Symbolism.
I need to fine-tune this movie magic. That's the wrong Englishman.
And the film ends with the families all happy and together, and Binks joining Emily in heaven.
Now that we've covered the plot, let's take a look at how the rules of magic work within the Hocus Pocus universe.
Winnie's got lightning hands, Mary can smell children.
Wait, are we sure that's a power and not a curse?
And Sarah's got the power of hot. Let's dig deeper into the way magic works in this world. This world is based where the Christian mythos is real in a physical sense, and heaven and hell are physical places, or at least confirmed dimensions that one can go to. The witches specifically have been to hell, and heaven is more implied by the end of the movie, as we see Binks and Emily heading off to the metaphysical pearly gates. The Sanderson sisters' powers are based on the witch trials' idea of heretical diabolical witchcraft. This is based on what Christians at the time of the trials thought witches were. We'll go deeper into that during the next segment. Their master is Satan. Judging by the fact that they mistake Gary Marshall as master with just a red outfit and horns, it's implied that the Satan they know is a humanoid with horns, or a shapeshifter, as opposed to any goat-headed, goat-hooved based entity. Because of the Christian mythos, they also can't step onto hallowed ground, really any place that's been blessed, consecrated, or considered holy. Moving away from the powers and rules based on this mythos, something the sisters also have is music magic, just like Disney princesses. Their music has the power to hypnotize people to dance to death, or call out to young children and make them zombie stomp their way to wherever you please, just like Disney princesses. They also chant rhymes to turn Binks into a cat and to bring Billy back from the dead. These chants have the makings of a halfway decent a cappella song.
Excuse me? I can believe it.
Winnie uses the power of her singing voice to call her book, even at great distances. Virginal magic is a plot point, and mentioned more often than one needs in a Disney film. The virginal magic is specifically tied to the black flame candle, though the author of Hocus Pocus and Focus also posits, as more of a thought experiment if you will, to consider these older children who are also hypnotized. They look to be about Max and Allison's age, and they're being lured as well. There's a possibility that it's not specifically a child's life force the sisters need to imbibe, but instead that of a virgin. Just something to think about that could potentially be more virginal magic. The ladies are also potion masters, and adept at Macbethian rhymes and ingredients. In this particular case, they create a potion to drink the life force of children away. Traditionally speaking, candle magic is a separate form of magic from potions, but because of the specific instance of the type of flame candle and what it does, I'm going to assume that their potion skills help them make this candle. They fly on brooms they've enchanted, and while it can be theorized that they levitate, these children in Sanderson costumes take the brooms and fly away. So, the brooms can fly regardless of who's wielding them. The Sanderson sisters also enchant their broom, mop, and vacuum trio to fly. They've stated multiple times that they're cannibals, which isn't in and of itself magic, but this does come from the heretical diabolical witchcraft idea from the witch trials. To make their potion of life, they use a dead man's toe.
So in that way, they're using blood magic, just like Disney princesses.
Winifred practices necromancy. Using her music magic and the power of rhyme, she's able to bring her ex-boyfriend back from the dead, so she's a necromancer. Billy isn't any archetypal zombie either. He's smart. Not only can he talk, he can sass.
You buck-toothed mop-rhyme firefly from hell!
Salt has magic properties in this film, specifically a circle assault. It prevents the witches from entering the circle.
And if it's a margarita salt circle, it prevents you from exiting or having a bad time, man.
According to the original script, salt burns their flesh. Many of the ramifications of the witches' powers disappear once the witches are dead. Binks passes away once the witches are gone. The parents who were dancing all night long to their deaths come out alive and happy, albeit somewhat sticky and sweaty. The book itself has its own power after the witches are dead, and it wakes up during the credits. Like I said, all of the magic attached to their powers is gone when they die. So this book isn't attached to their power. It's got its own power source. In the film, Allison reads off from a stand that the book once belonged to Satan. This was confirmed by the original script, which also notes that the book could change spells to be whatever the witches needed or wanted. The book hears Winnie calling out to it. Again, it sort of looks to have influenced Max and Allison, since their duh alarms didn't go off when they opened the book and have blinding light in their faces. Maybe they'll make a sequel, and we'll see if a new set of witches have found their powers through the book. Now, let's take a look at some of the real-life influences. Basically, the witches in Hocus Pocus are what I'm going to call, for purposes of this episode, heretical diabolical witches who practice heretical diabolical witchcraft. I know that's kind of a mouthful, but this concept is entirely different from modern witches. Heretical diabolical witchcraft is also different from the witch and magic concepts we see across different societies, but those are future episodes.
To discuss the heretical diabolical witchcraft of the witch trials, we need to take a brief look at the history of witchcraft and also the trials themselves.
All of this historical info is from the books A New History of Witchcraft and the Oxford Illustrated History of Witchcraft and Magic. Both books are highly excellent and you should check them out. I've linked them down below if you want to research further or get a more nuanced look at the witch trials.
The briefest, most succinct history of witchcraft and magic is before the witch trials, during the witch trials, and after the witch trials. So how did we go from just general pagan beliefs to all pagan beliefs are from Satan? And how did we go from there to executing around 40,000 to 60,000 people between 1450 and 1750?
Pre-witch trials, there were various different religions, but Christians at the time lumped them all together as pagan. It was sort of in the vein of hick or bumpkin, and it was used to describe all polytheist and monotheist religions that weren't Christian. Augustine, a Christian theologian, came along and declared all pagan spirituality was actually invented by the devil because that's just what the devil does. This led to the idea that pagan gods, any that you see in any non-Christian religion, were actually demons and servants of Satan, and this idea spread. Though, you'd still see some people sneaking their gods in as saints of the new Christian religion. Anyone who was a pagan was lumped in with Satan's plans.
Man, Satan has a lot of plans. I wonder what productivity system he's using.
During the transitional period between no witch trials and all the witch trials, various factors led to the transformation of which people the Christians of the time chose to torture and kill. One of those factors was Pope John XXII. Religious opinions of the early 1200s managed to coexist bumper sticker. Usually heresy against the church was only a big deal when any of the popes put their foot down. The standard procedure at the time was to convert heretics or put heretics to death. The Inquisition was started in the 1230s to combat a few heresies, specifically Catharism, which was also Christian? Just not the right kind of Christian? The Inquisition only reported to the Pope, so it was more like bad cop and bad cop reporting to the crooked captain. The way heresy was described both borrowed from and influenced the way magic was described. Eventually, heretics were accused of practicing magic, and magic peoples were accused of not really being Christian. Pope John XXII was also paranoid about sorcery, and having to deal with lots of cases of sorcery early in his career as Pope, specifically too many sorcery plots to take his life, probably didn't help things. He issued a decree in 1326 that basically said magical practices and heresy were the same things, and inquisitors were set loose on both. Another factor of the transformation from heresy to witchcraft was King James. King James, in the early 1600s, really forking hated witches, and he showed his hatred off in his book Demonolatry. Since he wanted all witches eliminated, the word Kashsaf, diviner/seer, was translated into witch. Another change from James was the Witch of Endor. She was originally a Baalalath, or Mistress of the Talisman, or in Latin, a woman possessing an oracular spirit. But good old Jimmy turned it into, you guessed it, witch. During the witch trials, there was a preset idea of what witch was. You know when you make a stereotype about a group that's based in fiction, but somehow it catches on?
Like the stereotype that all Gryffindors are secretly two penguins stacked in one magic robe? I know that's fake. Let's see if it catches on.
So the stereotypes about heretics was of the cannibals and orgies variety, and those stereotypes later attached to witches. One really important concept to keep in mind, according to the authors of New History of Witchcraft, is that what these witches may have done was eclipsed by what they were believed to do, and people acted on the basis of what they believed to be true. AKA, this isn't what people, magical or the accused, did. It's what people believed a heretical diabolical witch, a made-up concept based on the stereotypes of heretics, to be. And people killed one another because of this made-up idea. What is a heretical diabolical witch? A snake eating its tail of accusations, torture, brainwashing, and I told you so after the brainwash. Once the accused confessed after being tortured into believing their accusations, the made-up idea of what a witch was became further reinforced. Someone was a witch because of a quarrel, or a misfortune, or muttering under their breath, obviously an incantation towards you. So they must do what witches do. We say witches do this. We torture you into confessing to what we say witches do. Then you're guilty for being a witch, and we have further definitive proof of what witches do. On top of the torture, we've got new methods of communicating and spreading information, namely the printing press and trade routes, mixing rumors and lies like an ancient Fox News spreading propaganda against these made-up heretical diabolical witches. While there is this misconception that the heretical diabolical witches accused were just midwives, though midwives were accused and miscarriages, stillbirths might have influenced rumors of cannibalism and infanticide, or just women with property, though the influx of women living on their own without the societal protections of a husband didn't help, nor did surviving men during the plague at a recovery rate of up to 600% in some places, or just those people practicing folk magic of sorts, cunning folk, who were practicing folk magic as protection from witches, who weren't actually accused in that great of numbers.
In reality, the idea of witch was a set of made-up traits. These heretical traits got superimposed onto anyone who was accused.
And who was accused? Often women, at a rate of 75 to 80% compared to 20 to 25% of men. Obviously, there were variants based on regions and specific witch hunts. Part of this comes again from heresy. Women who couldn't get into positions of power within the traditional establishments at the time would often go to non-Christian, aka heretical religions, where they had a chance for more say in things. So the ideas of heretical woman transformed into witchy woman. A study of southwestern Germany determined the two groups most likely to be accused were people with a really bad reputation or really good ones. You were at risk if you were too easily seen as opposed to blending in the crowd. These made-up traits of what witches were got brainwashed into the accused via torture/almost torture. Really? Is this where we're gonna split hairs? Between thumbscrews and sleep deprivation? And then repeated back by those victims, thus confirming they were this made-up concept, and confirming to those in charge that this is what witches do, so we must kill more witches. We see a good handful of these traits in the Sanderson sisters. Traits such as, but not limited to, flying at night, secret nocturnal meetings, cannibalism, orgies, all because of a pact with the devil. These claims aren't witch-specific, they're other-specific, aka if you weren't a Christian, you were a heretic, and heretics did these things, and it morphed into witchcraft. The witch hunts and trials weren't a craze. Historians are now trying to put the trials back into the proper context. Craze implies that people were just temporarily paranoid or just scared. At the time, it was what people thought the capital T truth was, and this influenced them more than the actual truth of the situation.
Do I even need to make the obvious forking joke?
Since people thought they were fighting this made-up idea of heretical diabolical witchcraft, those people acted in a manner that made logical sense to them. Anyone could be a witch. It wasn't about pagan magic or old ways. It was about the shittiness of humans towards other humans. We push the evil we see in ourselves onto others, often the other. We project our shit onto outsiders, the weirdos, or we force people to become outsiders and then treat them like weirdos. Then, to really rub salt in the wound, we find ways to make their lives shittier, sometimes even torturing or killing them because of what we declared them to be, regardless of who they were.
Because of this shittiness towards other humans, 40 to 60,000 people lost their lives. Many more were tortured, kicked out, ostracized, and their entire lives were ruined.
Eventually, the witch hunts ended around the 1750s, 1800s, thanks to a thing we like to call too many forking factors to list in this episode. People calmed the fork down, and we eventually saw a survival, revival, and reimagining of magic and witchcraft in the Romantic period up to now. The witchcraft of today has nothing to do with the heretical diabolical witchcraft made up for the witch trials, nor does it have anything to do with the devil. Honestly, many modern witches don't believe in the devil, or Satan, or hell, and those who do sometimes come from a Christian background. They might even consider themselves to be a Christian witch. Satanism is its own other thing with its own weird history, but that's neither here nor there for this episode. Modern witchcraft is but one of many magic traditions, or depending on who you talk to, witchcraft is the art of creating magic. Magic is something anyone of any faith, or even lack of faith, can practice. When you broaden the definition of what magic is, you find that most people practice magic in some form or another. It's the choose-your-own-adventure of spirituality that's part philosophy, part art, and just one of the many ways a human can choose to ascribe meaning to their lives.
So, what exactly is magic? I'm not gonna lie, that's an amorphous blob of an idea that's kind of hard to pin down, and to really cover it in depth, we're gonna need another episode. However, there's ways you probably already inadvertently play with magic.
Whether you're meditating, enjoying a runner's high, praying, seducing with your animal magnetism, contemplating your place in the vast infinite universe that's ever expanding and indifferent to your problems and may eventually contract when you look into the night sky and see the vast emptiness of infinity surrounding you, feel one with everything, or just sending good vibes to a friend, you're playing with magic. A child playing deep in their imagination is using some fundamental magic techniques. Those who go on guided meditations are well acquainted with the visualization powers of the prefrontal cortex. Is magic real? You might not believe in magic, especially if you think it's anything like how we see in the movies. If you actually manage to get real lightning to shoot out of your fingertips, teach the rest of us who are still stuck using After Effects, yeah? To quote Tommy Kelly of adventuresinwoowoo.com, to ask if magic is real is the wrong question. The question you should be asking is it useful? Personally, I think it is. It's useful as an artist digging deeper into the ways humans have symbolically linked items. It's useful as a brain hacker who wants to tweak neurons to feel luckier and maybe have an easier time spotting lucky opportunities. It's useful if you need to quiet your brain through meditative practices. And these are just the muggle ways of looking at magic. To be a modern witch is to be the storyteller of your life, to create your fate as opposed to letting fate happen to you. As much. To be a modern witch is to tweak and play with those probabilities. How the tweaking works is really up to what you believe in. Last time we broadened the definition of witch, one where anyone accused could be a witch. Too many people died, and many more were left ostracized and their lives destroyed. If the definition was broadened again, this time in a positive direction, and a direction that took into account the magic we all play with, whether you mean to or not, you too might just realize that you're a witch, Hermione. Anyway.
Hocus Pocus was critically panned when it came out, but like all good Kenny Ortega films, it eventually got a cult following after repeated showings on ABC Family and the Disney Channel. Financially, it flopped. It came out in the summer of 1993. Not a great season for Halloween movies. It went up against Free Willy and it did horribly. However, they're recouping that with all the merchandise. Ooh, my movie magic powers must be growing. Hold on, I want to try something. This time with a factoid. To make your magic wishes come true, you need to be precise and sometimes involve a little symbology. You know what that means. Oh, film brain, I need your wisdom. Come and shout.
Symbolism!
Sweet. This power's gonna come in handy.
Come on, cherry, cherry, you're still very young, and we've only just started having fun. I'm picking fruit and I choose you, you're so cool. No need to save yourself for someone else to come. So we went completely wild. We kicked over.
Thank you for joining us for our very first episode, though it certainly won't be our last. If you want to help me pick which movie to cover, join me over at Patreon, where we've got all sorts of awesome rewards for being a patron. In the meantime, I have fun things over at my website, cherry-fizz.com, home of witchcraft and geekery. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor and like, subscribe, and share with 2 friends who you know would want to check the show out. If you're just so forking excited and you want to be sure you get the newest episodes first, sign up below to get the Witchy review emailed directly to your inbox as soon as new episodes are live. See you next time!
And then nothing happened after that scene. Nothing.